This is Short-Term Rental Management, the show that is all about short-term rental property management with your host, yours truly, Luke Carl.
This episode of the Short Term Show is brought to you by the Short Term Shop. If you're interested in buying a short-term rental in one of the top vacation markets in America, just go to theshorttermshop.com and click Get Connected with an Agent. If you purchase a home with the shop, you'll have access to all of our client-only benefits, such as training on how to manage your short-term rental. So we'll teach you everything you need to know, from how to set up your Airbnb and Vrbo listings to how to use the property management software that you'll need to streamline your business, all the way down to helping you source your local boots on the ground like cleaners, handy people, etc. We've taught thousands of people just like you how to buy and manage their vacation homes from anywhere in the world. So head on over to theshorttermshop.com and click Get Connected with an Agent to get started. I do have to mention that we're brokered by EXP or else I get in trouble. We'll see you guys over there.
Here we go. We did it. We are on the Short-Term Rental Management Show. And my co-host today is my buddy Patrick. And actually, we go back. I knew Patrick previous to the whole short-term rental thing. We were in a mastermind group together, and he's a rock star, lawyer by trade, and a dad, and married to a doctor. And I know a thing or two about being married to a high-level woman, so we got that in common. And Patrick, how you doing? Tell us a little bit about yourself as we get going on today's topic of rehabs and remodeling our short-term rentals. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. From Alabama. Been an attorney practicing in Alabama since 2011, and got into real estate in 2019. We started with long-term rentals. Then we got into triple nets, and now we have two short-term rentals down in Florida.
All right, cool, man. So yeah, you got long-term rentals, which are, I think they're close to where you live, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of how I did that as well, just because, I don't know, it just kind of happened that way. When I first started, I was a little worried and scared and wanted something I could drive to, and carried that through in most of my long-term rentals. Of course, multifamily I do from a distance. And then the short terms, you don't really care where they are. That's one of the benefits of this whole short-term thing, is it not?
It sure is. Yeah. We actually picked our short-term market based on someplace we'd want to go on vacation. So we picked, we'd always gone down to Florida for the beach. So we picked the beaches down at Panama City Beach. So that was how we picked our short-term market. Hey, if we want a vacation there, I'm sure other people will want a vacation there. And it's been a short-term market for forever. So the history was very, very good in Panama City Beach. So that's why we picked that market. There's a lot of other great markets in Florida and everywhere else, but that's how we got into Florida, was that one.
Yep. I totally understand. My wife loves the beach. I love the mountains. So we ended up in both. And it's been, it's been great. So let's just dive in, man. We'll talk about rehab today. I'm going through a few of them right now as it's slow season. We'll get in more of that slow season rehab stuff a little later. I do want to talk about you purchased two rather large properties in the past couple years. Can you walk us through what size these things were and what kind of work they needed right out of the gate?
All right. So the first one we purchased was a 6-bedroom, 4 full bathroom, with a private pool, 60 steps from the beach in Panama City Beach. It needed some updates and some furniture, and that was it. Everything had been previously rehabbed by the previous owner 5 months before we bought it. So it was ready to go. So we actually, on the second we bought, we used the same contractor because we seen his work on the first one. We used the same contractor for the second one.
Oh, in other words, so you bought this house, it was already rehabbed, ready to rock and roll,
Yep.
And you found out who did the work.
Correct.
Oh, well, that made it easy on you. Hold on. Let's talk about that first one quick. So the first one, did you seek it out like that, or it just kind of happened that it was already ready to go, or did you do that on purpose or not really?
I was looking for a deal. I always look for deals. Luke, you know that.
Yeah.
So 2021, the market is just nuts. And I mean, completely nuts. Everybody's paying over asking price. They're, have appraisal gap contingencies in there. I was like, I'm not doing that stuff. That's insane. So I was looking for properties that had been on the market for about, I don't know, 180 days. And so this one, we actually got like a 250,000 price drop in 2021.
Now, how many? There was not a lot of properties on the market for that long in that period of, this was like the heyday, probably the craziest real estate market the entire world will ever see. So, I mean, did you set your search parameters at days on market, or were you just, so obsessed with the market that you knew what was available?
So obsessed with the market, I knew it was available. I would go through realtor.com and Zillow every day trying to find, I was like, we're going to find a property. This is my next goal. We're going to find a property. And so I was like, we're going to find one. I'm not going to pay over asking. I'm going to do my numbers and I'm going to see what works. And so I saw it was listed. I saw what would work. I was like, well, let me lowball him because it's been on the market a while. And he ended up, I lowballed him 350. He came down 250. He's a super nice guy. I got to talking to him. That, to me, that's the biggest thing, is talking to people. And that's how we found out who the contractor was. He gave us other contacts down there because we didn't have anybody in Panama City Beach. So we got a lot of contacts from this guy. And he ended up being he's a property manager down there. So he's selling his own house that was actually 2 houses down from his actual residence. So it was, it's pretty nice. So we got to talk to him and make some contacts, and we made a lot of good contacts down there now.
Okay, great. So the new one, how big was it? The second property, how big was it? And walk me through briefly the highlights.
It's a monster. So this one's beachfront. It's a 5-bedroom, 5 full bath, 2 half bath, 4,000 square foot beachfront home.
I'm sorry, one more time. How many bedrooms?
5 full bedrooms, 5 full baths, 2 half baths, and 4,000 square feet.
So you're telling me this thing's got 7 bathrooms?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And 5,000 square feet?
4,000.
4,000. Okay. This is on the water, right?
Beachfront on the water. Yeah.
In PCB.
In Panama City Beach on the east side. So
what did it need? Give me like a high level overview of, we're talking roof, floors, HVAC, what did it need? Or at least at first glance.
So the outside was okay. It needed some work on the deck. It needed to be repainted outside.
What do you mean by work on the deck? Like rot, joists falling apart, or not that big a deal?
It needed some joists sistered together on it. Like person who had done it before had mis-sistered the joist. So there was a part that wasn't fully structurally intact. It wasn't a big deal, just a little carpenter work to put a new joist in to put it together. They had changed the stairway on the deck. So that was, that was one little small thing. That wasn't a big deal, but it's something we had to take care of. I wanted to be safe and nobody falling through and the deck not falling. So
I see that a lot, though, especially in the mountains where folks say to get these inspection reports and there's no joist hangers and they're freaking out. Oh my God, I need a contractor right now to fix. And a lot of times it ends up being something that doesn't even need to be done. You know what I mean? Like if I don't even know how many properties I own in Tennessee, and I guarantee you like 1/10 of them have joist hangers. It's just the way it is there. So I think a lot of that has to do with knowing your market and also knowing your way around a deck. And have you ever built a deck before? I mean, I've built a deck with my own 2 hands.
Well, I've never built a deck, but I do have a master's and a bachelor's in civil engineering as well as being an attorney. So that doesn't scare me. When I see that on an inspection report, I'm like, okay, I can get some more money off the deal. That's
right. Okay, see, that's where your brain goes with it. Yeah. I think a lot of people, their brain goes, oh my God, this house has a crappy deck and I'm in love with this house. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to rebuild this deck. It's going to cost me $200,000. And then that's really just not the case. I mean,
I had some joist hangers. It's not a big deal. Add some lag bolts in there. We had to add some lag bolts and sister a joist together. It's not that big of a deal.
Now, I have had decks where I did have to, I've definitely had decks that needed to be replaced. I bought 3 apartment buildings, must have been about a year ago. And all 3 of them, the decks were just horrible. I mean, rotted, and this is how you can tell. This is the way I do it. I take a net. Now, if you're there, easier said than done. If you're actually there, I'll take a nail or even a pen or whatever. I always have a pocket knife on me. And if you can push it into the wood, that shit's rotten, and if it's not, then it's probably got a little bit more life in it. And then I call it the nail test. I don't know where I got it from. My dad was a contractor, so hammer swinger. Probably got it from him, you know.
Probably,
but,
yeah. I mean, and that's the way it is. Wood's gonna rot, and it's gonna have to be replaced.
All right, so we needed some deck work. What else?
So it had a roof from Sally on it already, a brand new metal roof on it.
In other words, Hurricane Sally, they replaced the roof.
Correct.
Which was only not even that's not that long ago at all.
It was replaced in 2020, so it was less than 2 years old.
And for those of you that are not familiar with Hurricane Sally, was I mean, no hurricane's a good thing, but Sally wasn't that big a deal. Not a lot of lives. I don't think there's any lives lost or anything like that. It was and I've lived through it. I was living here at the time. Yeah. Am I correct? It wasn't that bad. I don't remember.
It was bad in Mexico Beach, but not in Panama City or in Destin. So I mean, I was like, all right, so it's got a brand new roof. It needed to be painted on the outside. Didn't look like it'd been painted for like 10 years.
What do we have? A hardy board? What kind of was this siding?
It's stucco.
It's stucco. Okay.
It's real stucco. So the walls are cinder block units. So I really love that about the house. The house is built solid. It's cinder block exterior walls with stucco adhered properly to it, not this drive-it mess. This is real stucco.
Right. So stucco, and again, another thing to learn. If you've never heard of stucco before, it has its ups and downs. If you don't take care of it properly, it's going to crack. It's going to fall apart.
Right.
It needs to be, but it's not that big of a deal if you do it right and you know what you're getting yourself into. It's all about knowing your market and knowing the way things were built in your market. Do you have basements? Do you have crawl spaces? All those things come into play. Obviously, there's no basements in Panama City Beach. So anyway, exterior paint.
Yes,
go ahead. Oh, there is a basement.
So this one is weird because it's built up and then it's got a half basement walkout. So it's very interesting. So it does have a basement.
Okay.
But it's a walkout basement.
Right. It was probably built as is it on pillars or no? It's just cinder block.
It's cinder block on a slab.
Okay. Well, look at that. So then they raised up the main floor with the cinder block, it sounds like. And then they did make some living space within that area, which we're calling a basement.
Correct.
Okay, exactly. Got it. Cool.
Yeah, so it's a walkout basement with windows. There's 3 bedrooms downstairs, 2 bedrooms upstairs with a huge kitchen area. The inside looked like grandma was living there, I think would be the best way to describe it. It had the fluorescent lights. It looked like a dark dungeon with the side fluorescent lights. And it just looked awful. There was carpet in there. There was tile from the 70s in there. It was ugly.
Okay.
I walked in there. I was like, this is a mess.
But you see dollar signs.
I see dollar signs, but I also see, I can get this for what the land is worth. And that's what we ended up doing. We ended up getting it at a purchase price for what the land appraised for.
No, this is not going to happen every day. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up out there.
No. Now, this one was on the market for 365 days. Okay.
And it's because why? Nobody wanted to touch it?
Hey, real estate is hard and you have to put the work in if you want to find a good deal. That
is true.
So I was looking for ones that we would have to put the work in and to get a good deal.
Anybody that thinks that deals just fall out of the sky, it's never been like that. Oh my God, things have been so hard the past year or two. I can't find a deal. I started buying real estate 2012, and guess what? It was the same thing then. I made, I don't know how many offers before I got my first house under contract. And then, my first rental house, and then first cabin in the Smokies. I probably made 12 offers. And this is back when they were just sitting around for sale, and, so if somebody's new and if you're getting discouraged because you can't find a deal, can't get the contract on the one you're looking for, it'll happen. That's my advice. It'll happen. And every time one falls out of contract, a better one comes along right behind it, and everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. The worst they can tell you is no. You just move on to the next one if they tell you no. That's the way I look at it. If they tell me no big deal. I just go on to the next one. It's just part of it. But we ended up getting this one under contract. I went ahead as we were under contract, lined up the contractor, lined up the furniture people. I wanted everything starting day one that we closed.
Well, this is a gutsy move. But again, you have experience in real estate. This is not your first property.
I mean, to get this thing rented properly at levels that are being rented in Panama City Beach, it needed a complete update. So the first thing we did, we found out, we were like, all right, we're going to replace the flooring in there, get rid of the carpets. We're going to repaint the entire house. We decided to shiplap the ceilings. We added 120 of the overhead lights, the fluorescent, not the fluorescent, but the
Can lights.
the can lights. Yeah.
Well, the can replacement. They used to be cans, and now they're like those flush mount.
Yeah. I mean, and it was great.
They're cool.
The neighbors now tell me that they can land a plane by our house with how many lights that we've added. But it's light, it's bright, it's beachy. So we completely redid all the flooring. It needed new paint everywhere. We did not update the bathrooms. The bathrooms were serviceable. Three of them had what I would like to refer to as McDonald's toilets in them.
Which is what?
The commercial toilets that you see in McDonald's.
Power flush.
Power flush, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And we got rid of those because no guest wants to sit there and see a McDonald's toilet.
Okay, all right.
I mean, now my wife made me get rid of those. I'm like, those things will last forever.
Yeah.
But she was like, get rid of those. I was like, you got it.
Yeah, she's the boss. She's the boss.
So we got rid of the McDonald's toilets. We added some new shower doors on the showers and kept the bathrooms very, very much the same. We plan on renovating those in probably a couple years because they need to be updated. But
interesting on the doors. See, I'm doing away with all my shower doors. I actually just had a set of them removed the other day. They weren't even that old, but I can't get them to work right with the renters, and they always, they seem to always sag and bang against each other and things like that. So I'm getting rid of all my shower doors and putting curtains. It doesn't look as good, sort of, but I know that I can sleep better at night.
I've just had the renters pull the curtains down, though. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So you're picking one or the other. You have to have something there.
I'm all curtain because here's the deal, man. If that glass, you know what I mean, like just a tiny bit, and it'll shatter and break all over, and then it's a huge mess. So I'm out on them, but they do look way better. I mean, it's definitely the difference between a classy house and a shower curtain house.
Right. So I think that's also picking your market on where you're at. If you're 3 blocks away from the beach and it's not quite as high end of a property, then you may not need them.
You trying to say I got no class? Because you're right.
No, you got a lot of class, but if you're up in the mountains, you probably don't need them.
Right. Yeah.
If you're beachfront trying to track the highest rates, then I think you may need them. So I mean, it just all depends. So we had to completely change the stair railing in the house, and I mean, paint the exterior. It was total renovation. You saw the pictures before and after. It looked like we went from grandma's house from the 1970s to basically what every beachfront rental looks like right now.
We see this on TV and they make it look so easy. I mean, like, how did this? Did one guy do everything and he called in the subs, or did you actually act kind of as your own general contractor, or how did it go down?
So the contractor I used, he basically did everything. It was great. He had his own plumbers. He does maintenance and remodeling throughout the area. So he had his own plumbers he would call. He had his own contacts. I'd seen his work before. He does a great job, and he's honest. And he works 7 days a week. That's the thing you can't find. So seeing his work and talking to him, I got comfortable. We actually met him at the property before we closed. We got the scope of work in. He said it's going to take this long. He said it's going to take 8 weeks. I said, there's no way. I'm budgeting 12. When a contractor tells you it's going to take X, it's going to take longer.
Right. It's making me a little nervous and making it sound so easy because it's been.
It's not easy. It's not easy. But the thing is, I'm going to tell you a horror story on the one that I've been doing down in Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
Okay. So this one, everything goes right. We had a few hiccups.
In Panama City, you mean, the big one?
Yeah, the big one in Panama City. We had a few hiccups. The first thing is he gets in, he's demoing, he goes, we're gonna the kitchen cabinets are falling off. We have to replace them. Okay, that's something I hadn't budgeted for. But my wife was so excited. She hated the kitchen.
Yeah.
So brand new kitchen.
Yeah. But you're better. And then here's the deal. In the end, you're always glad you did that. Always.
Right. Yeah, so brand new kitchen.
And the heat of the action, when you're like, holy crap, it's going to be another X amount of money, which really, sometimes cabinets, you know, if you're getting custom fancy paint, you know, soft clothes, yeah, that's going to be, and it's a big ass kitchen, yeah, that'll be expensive. But a lot of short-term rentals don't have big kitchens because people don't really, you know, if they were purpose-built short terms, a lot of times the kitchen's kind of small because people on vacation don't cook that much, you know. So like we see that a lot in the Smokies, where and this one had a big one, is what you're saying?
This is the big kitchen.
Okay.
It's there's a 13-foot island in there.
Oh my, yeah.
Yeah. It was a huge wings pattern island, so we had
13-foot island. That's bigger than where I go on vacation. You know what I mean?
It's huge. It's really nice. And so we picked the countertop. We went with the quartz countertop. It was a low maintenance. Don't have to seal it or anything like that.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna stop you there now because quartz it'll burn. It'll bruise up. You know. So how do we? I do have it in one house. Avery's my wife is, as you know, is a huge fan of quartz. I don't really give a crap what the countertop is, as long as it can take a beating. So we do have one house, my Destin house, which is the best, nicest house I've got, and it has quartz, but I do worry about it because if they put a hot pan on that, you're out of business.
400 degrees, it will burn. You're right.
Yeah.
So
okay,
that's
400. That's the number. I didn't know that. Did you Google it? You did some research? Well, I'm gonna write that down.
I did a lot of research because we put it in my primary home too. So to see what was the best, I wanted something that the cleaner doesn't have to worry about putting a granite sealer on it. You know, the other option you could do would be porcelain, but I just like the look of the quartz better.
I don't want my guests hearing that 400 thing, because then the next thing you know, they're sitting all sorts of hot shit on my countertop.
Well, I don't want them setting anything up there, but you know, it's going to take a beating. It's just not going to. It's not going. If they put anybody puts a hot pan directly on it, it's going to have some issues.
Right.
So
I have signs on, and the one that I have that has quartz, I have a big sign, not big, it's 8x10, and I got it on, I think Zazzle or whatever, you know, just a sign place, and it says no hot items on the quartz countertops, and I've had it like that. I don't know, I've had it for 4 years or something, and so far, knock on wood, I hate to even bring this thing up. It's a terrible idea because now it's out there in the universe, but so far so good. This episode is brought to you by Short-Term Rental Listing Advice. Join this Facebook group and post your listing to get advice from other hosts, including myself, on how you can improve your listing. Or just post your property so you can show off. Join us at strlistingadvice.com. That's strlistingadvice.com. Here's the deal. One more thing. All right. We love our guests. We love our guests here at Short-Term Rental Management. We can't do this without our guests, but they're just a lot of times not that smart. So make sure if you're going to do the quartz or any kind of fancy stuff in your house, you know, maybe not a sign. That's a little too, it's like Tesla is breaking up my mind. You know what I mean? But I do have my sign's really cool looking. It's not just like some plastic property management crap that looks like, you know, you printed it at the whatever, you know. Mine is like got a design to it and it looks cool. But you got to be careful. You got to, you know, overstate the obvious when it comes to guests.
Well, I think the main thing is when you're stocking the kitchen, you want to make sure there's lots of warming pot holders for them and everything.
Oh, absolutely.
That way they can find it. They put it out. They put the pots on it. Just make it easy on them is the thing. Yeah,
and ship them often. Like if you're just sitting there watching, I'll do this while I'm sitting watching TV, and I'm like, holy crap, I better send some more pot holders to the quartz countertop house, you know. And it happens to be down the street, so I'll ship them to myself, or I'll text one of my, you know, people. I got somebody that does that for me. So
yeah,
can you send these to me? And it's a great system. And then so when they show up, I have a mail room in my house. I call it the mail room. It's under the stairs in the front of the house with all the crap for my short terms. And I only live near 3 of them. But I just love going over there and checking in on my houses, and it's fun, you know? So, what the hell were we talking about? Oh, so everything went smooth with this, with the big one, but yeah, I mean, this, so you said 8 weeks. How long did it actually take?
It took 12 weeks.
Yeah.
It took 12 weeks. And my contractor worked 12 days a week. I mean, 7 days a week. He was there every day. He had his crew there every day. There were 20 people in the house, just going nuts. It was great. We went down and checked on him a couple times, and did a walkthrough at the end and a walkthrough before, and he was easy to work with. Now he was old school, Luke. I'm talking about I talked with him on the phone every day to make sure we were on track. Because he's a phone call guy. Okay, that's what he is. I mean, I want to make it easy on him, so he will do. If I need something else in the future, he'll be there for me. He gave me a hard time. He was a Georgia fan. I'm an Alabama fan. So they just won the national championship and beat us, so he was loving that.
Yeah.
But it was smooth. We found out the two big things that we found out were we had to completely redo the kitchen. That made my wife so dang happy. It was not even funny. So we designed an island on a piece of paper. We sent the picture to him, and they took care of it. We added brand new appliances to everything. So we put a double oven in. We put an ice maker in. We put 2 fridges in for the kitchen. One's a drink fridge. One's a true full size fridge. Brand new dishwasher, brand new sinks, everything. It looks amazing. Now I did try to save some money in some places. Like I did take a weekend off, and I drove the appliances down from where I live in Alabama, because we have a great scratch and dent store up here that it's basically brand new in box, but it's like half off prices. So I was like, instead of buying brand new at Lowe's or Home Depot, I'll do this. And whenever
that's gonna be my next question. How often were you going there? But I'm gonna go back. I'll come back to that. Let's talk about these appliances, because you're dead on, man. Especially in a vacation town, trying to get appliances can be like pulling teeth. You usually have 2 options. You got the little box. You got the big box store.
Yep.
Lowe's and Home Depot, which the pain in the ass there is they do third-party delivery. And if you order and they show up and there's nobody there, a lot of times they'll just leave because the delivery company gets paid twice if they have to come back. So again, I'm making this up. It's a conspiracy theory, but it happens to me so often where they just don't call me or anything. Right. Even if I have somebody waiting there, a lot of times they'll leave anyway because it was a different person than on the phone or whatever. Anyway, so I feel that a lot of times they'll do it just so they can come back, because then they get paid twice. So that's annoying as hell. And then also a lot of times you pay them to install it and they don't do it right, and the dishwasher leaks and you don't even know it's leaking for 3 months because you're not there to micromanage, and you can't, your cleaner doesn't. God bless her, it's not her job to do the plumbing. So there's that, the appliance thing. But how many times did you go down in this 12 weeks? And do you feel like it was enough, or you wish you would have gone more?
I went down 3 times.
Okay.
And one of those times was before we closed.
Oh, so 2 times, really?
Right. Yeah. So, because I was, like I said, I talked with him every day. At the end of the day, we had a conversation on what happened, where we need to go. They would call me when they need to go pick up supplies, and we do a phone sale on Lowe's or Home Depot. I'd pay him for the labor, and then I'd pay with credit card for Lowe's and Home Depot. So we did phone sales with there to get the shiplap, to get everything else. We went down in May for the first time, and that was when I delivered the appliances. I bought all the appliances at this store here. A fridge that would have been $3,000 was $1,400, and the scratches on the sides you're never going to see.
Right.
Same thing for dishwasher, the double oven, the cooktop, all that stuff. And so I put all those in a U-Haul for $140 and got them down to the beach. It was a no-brainer for me. Got to see the property, and then we went right when we were doing the walkthrough for the end, and walked through, made sure this is the punch-out list that we need to finish. He took care of it, and while we were there at that time, I went ahead and installed the Ring floodlight cameras and the Wi-Fi.
Okay. All right. Doing it right. Doing it short-term way. Great. Bravo. All right. Tell me what's going wrong, and we'll come back to this one. What's going wrong in the Tuscaloosa house?
Well, so this is my old office that I've just renovated, and it's going to be turned into we're actually just putting it on the market now, but we started the renovation in February of 2022. Okay.
Put it on what market? I'm sorry. For sale?
Putting it for sale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Go ahead.
But putting it for sale. It's It's a 4 bathroom, could be like a 7 bedroom with 2 kitchens, a short-term rental in Tuscaloosa. Uh, it's right up from the Savings Center. But
Have you actually short-termed it?
I have not. So this was my old law office in
Right.
Tuscaloosa. So there's
But
a
what
lot
you're
of people.
saying, it would make a good short-term.
It would make a perfect short-term. It's downtown. It's near the bars. It'd be perfect for game days.
Is it 2 separate units? You said 2 kitchens.
No, it's 1 unit. There's a kitchen upstairs and a kitchen downstairs.
Okay, cool. All right.
Uh,
And is this an older home?
built in 1887 originally.
Oh, that is very old. Okay, and a lot of character, I would imagine.
Yes, a lot
I've
of
seen
character.
pictures of this house actually. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so we're talking plaster walls. We're talking, the old coal burning fireplaces that have been closed in.
Mhm.
So we tried to keep all the character, but just trying to find labor in Tuscaloosa, we went from what should have been a 3-month renovation to we finally finished in January. So it was almost a year. Took almost a year.
This was different people, or you tried to do it all through one guy, much like the Panama City thing?
Went through one guy, but just trying to find labor. I mean, he almost cut his finger off one time. He got COVID several times. It was just a continued series, trying to get stuff in stock to get work done. There was nothing in stock in Tuscaloosa, so that was a big hang up. It was just a pain. So we added, new countertops. We repainted, and then he didn't realize how tough plaster was to work with, which is completely different. Everybody's used to sheetrock, and that was a pain. We had to add insulation to the walls because houses built in 1887 are not meant to be insulated. They're meant to breathe. So they had the old valances above the windows so the airflow could come in because there wasn't air conditioning back in 1887.
Right. See, that's where I'm at. When he says, I don't know, as soon as I find out it's not in their wheelhouse, they're gone. So, he didn't have much experience with plaster. So
There's
I was
nobody that has experience with plaster anymore. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So, but he figured it out and he got it working. It just took him a lot longer. So this job ended up costing this contractor money, not me. He stayed true to his word and was there 7 days a week. But when he thought he'd have 4 or 5 people there working, only one would show up.
So you got along with him. Everything went,
oh yeah.
That's a big part of it, getting along with him.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it. I mean, he's a good guy and he did everything he said he was going to do. It just took forever. I mean, there was a lot of plumbing work that he had to do to try to make stuff right. The bathrooms were totally redone. He did a lot of tile work and there's only so much he can do by himself. But in Alabama, that's the problem. Trying to find some people that want to actually get there and work is a different story. Nobody wants to do it.
I find it interesting that you're having a harder time finding folks to work in the big city versus in the vacation town. I usually find it to be the opposite for several reasons. In vacation towns, first of all, there's not a lot of people live in these towns. Like, Panama City Beach is a pretty big town, 30, 40,000, something like that. Which is, compared to Tuscaloosa is tiny, but, or especially to Birmingham, that kind of thing. But anyway, so, very small town. Also, a lot of the folks living in these vacation towns are not from the area. They kind of moved here a year or two ago and are going to probably move on in a year or two. And, they got, other plans on their mind in their life, and then also these folks in vacation towns are used to the owner not being around. And I think that's the big one, that's the one where you're like, it's like 90% of these folks that are working in vacation towns never see anybody when they're doing the job. Here's a perfect example. I've got a floor going in my 30A floor, just not too far up the beach, same beach from your Panama City Beach house,
Right.
Townhouse, and it's a 3-bed, 3-bath, 3 2.5, and it's got hardwoods, but it's time to go. They're time to go.
Right.
The second floor has they're just expired, and the doors has these 3 beach style doors, and they've been leaking where they look like just nobody ever sealed the stucco right, or they didn't seal the threshold. So the floor there was rotted, and I just had it covered up front with a I've only owned this thing for 2 years, so in my defense, but I had it covered up with a mat for the last 2 seasons. And I said, okay, it's time. Plus the kitchen's tile in this house. And so there's a transition, and the transition's always, it cracks all the time. It wasn't done right originally. They're not using a double level. It was like an even transition. It needs to be a double level. And every time somebody steps on it, it cracks. So, and plus a lot of the tile in the kitchen and there's a half bath right there is cracked. And so I hired this floor guy through word of mouth and a buddy of mine. And this guy shows up, and it became apparent to me we weren't going to get along. He was giving me a lot of no's. I was like, I want to do this way. I want to do that this way. And he's like, I don't think I can get that done. And he also he didn't want to move the water heater. A lot of these guys just want to put vinyl. I'm doing vinyl, LVP.
Right.
And
which is a great product.
Well, yeah, it's great. If you get a good one, there's cheap crap out there too. So make sure you get, a decent thickness and do a little bit of research there. But I love vinyl. It's waterproof and it's easy to install and take out. But anyway, I showed him the water heater, and he's like, I'm not touching that thing. And I'm like, so he just wanted to put the vinyl up to the tray around the water heater. And in my brain, that is like an explosion. I'm like, no way am I going to deal with that, because next thing you know, when the new water heater goes in, you put it on a pedestal or something, and then you can see that old tile under there, and it just looks like crap. And then the real thing for me on this one was the multi-level deal. The living room had hardwood, and the kitchen and the bathroom had tile, and they were off probably. It was about 3/4 of an inch. Plus the tile was cracked to hell. So I said I want it out. And I know that's a way more work, because then the subfloor is going to be a mess because the hardwood is going to be glued and this and that. But here's the thing. That hardwood had to come out because it was rotted to hell over by those doors. Right.
Exactly.
So I had to take out at least that section over there to get to the rot and replace the subfloor. And at that point, he wanted to just leave the rest of the hardwood and then fill it in with leveler. And we just were not speaking the same language. I'm the kind of guy, I like it done right. Let's do it right. And then that way, some other day, maybe if I put new vinyl, I can just rip the vinyl out, put new vinyl, and call it a day. Or maybe I want to put tile someday, but I have a fresh start. Now, the upstairs, here's another thing. The upstairs in this house was different hardwood that looked to me like it was maybe a little more recent. And it was nicely done, and it wasn't, there was no rot or multi-level crap. So up there, I said, no problem. Put the vinyl on top of the hardwood. It's probably a better surface to go on than the damn subfloor anyway, because it's smooth and shiny.
Right. Exactly.
And easy to install. And so I said, up there, no problem. But down here, too many issues. And then I had there's another issue. So I got the rot from the front door. I got the double level thing, and then I got the water heater and the dishwasher. There was tile under the dishwasher, and he would not. He's like, I'm not touching that dishwasher. I'm like, okay, I get it. You're not a plumber. He's worried that, licenses or whatever, which of course depends on your state, that kind of thing. But I'm like, dude, I can take that water heater out, that dishwasher out in 4 minutes. I can do that myself. I'll just leave it in the middle of the floor. And he's like, no, I just want to put leveler and put the vinyl on top of the tile. And I'm like, no. So then I had another fourth issue, which was the countertops. They've waterfalled it on just one side. So it can come down all the way to the floor, and it was resting on top of the tile. You could tell that the tile was there longer than the waterfall. So he's like, well, if I take this tile out, again, this was him not wanting to take the tile out. If I take this tile out, that waterfall is not going to have anything to sit on, and it's going to end up breaking. And I'm like,
he just didn't want to put in the labor to get the tile out, because it's a pain.
And it's not fun. And I told him, I said, listen, I understand what you're saying to me right now, but we are not speaking the same language. I know that your way is easier, but that's not how I want it done. And I don't want to have to worry about doing this again in 10 years where I rip up this vinyl and there's this crappy tile with a bunch of cracks and all this other shit. So it just didn't go well. And I ended up getting rid of him and brought some other guy in, and he was fine. We got along. I mean, we were, there was no bad vibes or anything, but we were just not speaking the same language, so.
Yeah. So my guy down at the beach, he was like, we need to take this tile out. We need to take it out. We need to take it out. And he beat that tile to heck and back to get it all out, because there was tile and carpet upstairs, and he's like, we got to get it out. It's not gonna look right. I was like, you got it, let's do it. He's like, it'll cost this much for labor to knock it out, and then whatever the extra flooring is. And I was like, heck yeah, let's do it.
And sometimes you got to put new subfloor. Sometimes you got to put subfloor on top of the old subfloor if it's bad enough, that kind of thing. You know, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But honestly, my tile's actually coming out a little easier than what yours. Mine's on Durarock, so they're just scraping up the Durarock, and then there's a bunch of concrete between the Durarock and the tile, to again leveler. Sometimes that tile. I mean, you can bring in a damn jackhammer sometimes. You know.
They had one of those little things that you compactors, and they were just knocking like this on it. I mean,
trying to get it to crack.
Exactly, and then they were scraping it up because it was adhered to the subfloor, which was plywood. So it was a pain in the butt for them. But man,
but they were on the same page as you. They wanted it done right.
They wanted it done right, and so I told you about the kitchen we had an issue with down there. The other issue we had was the stairway. It looked like a 1990s, 1980s stairway with the little wood things. And I mean, it looked like it belonged in grandma's house. And we wanted something updated. And I was like, I couldn't get over how much it cost for these like banister sections. It was like $5,000 for a banister, like a prefab banister section that would have brought it to look right. I went and researched a way to make it look good, and you've seen what the picture looks like. It looks good to do it yourself. So we bought these metal bars. We painted the metal bars, and they put up horizontal and with big chunky 2x4s and stained it to match the flooring, and it looks great. And it was maybe a tenth of the cost of what it would cost to put the banister sections in.
And there you go. See, you did it.
Yeah, and he did it. I mean, he made it look right. Once I explained it to him, it took a while to explain it to him because it didn't click in his mind right. Once he saw what I was talking about, saw the pictures, he went, I can do that. I was like, I know you can. So, and he's proud of it. I mean, he goes, how's my stairway holding up? I've had him because he does maintenance as well. So if I have like a plumbing issue, I call him. He sends one of his plumbers out to me or something like that. And he's like, how's my stairway holding up? So he took ownership of the house. And that's what I was looking for, a contractor that took ownership. And he really took ownership. And, talking with him, I got real comfortable. So I think that's the first thing that you need to do when you're looking for somebody to remodel a home. You need to get on the same page with the contractor. A lot of them talk a good game, but you want somebody, you want to be more experienced to be able to go through the BS. Now, I've got, as you mentioned, I've got a lot of long-term rentals too. Every single one I've bought has required a remodel. Every single one. You can't buy move-in ready stuff and expect to make money on it. So every single one has required a remodel, and I've gone through probably 10 or 12 remodels on long terms too. And this is in the Birmingham market. So I've personally gone in and changed the plugs out because I didn't want to pay an electrician to put in the white plugs, get rid of the manila ones. I did it myself. I've laid LVP flooring. So I put in the work just to see what it's like. So I know what's supposed to happen. Now, don't ask me to paint. I can't paint worth crap.
I'm the same way. So you said the word contractor. Now, that's another thing we need to consider. We're not going to get into the logistics of everybody's state. Everybody lives in a different state. The properties are in a different state. A lot of times, but what I'm getting at here is a lot of times you don't even need a contractor. Noobs get hung up on that big time. I got my inspection report from my home inspector. Man, it says it's got 17 action items, and I need a contractor to go in there and fix this stuff. No, you don't. How do you even know that stuff needs to be fixed? It takes a lot of time and patience and practice to learn how to read an inspection report. And a lot of times the first time you read this dude's inspection, I had that one time. All right, let me tell another story. I had one time where this guy, what's that?
It could be a whole new podcast, man. Just reading.
Rental rehabs. We're definitely going to do this again. But anyway, so I had one time where I got first time I ever used this inspector, again in Alabama, and so I got this inspection report back, and it said the subfloor was squishy. And I'm like, okay, that's not good. That's like one of the things that I'm probably not going to be all that excited about. One of the very few things that I will probably not be excited about. There's very few things on an inspection report that I'm scared of anymore. Also, keep in mind, I did go to home inspector school, and my dad was a contractor. Now, he didn't do it for a living, but he did have his contractor's license in Nebraska, and his dad did do it for a living. So it runs in my family. And matter of fact, my great grandfather owned a motel.
Right.
Short-term rental also runs in my family. My dad grew up in that motel, as a matter of fact. But anyway, so I got squishy subfloor on this inspection report, and I almost didn't buy it because of that. Because, you know, you get squishy subfloor, and Lord knows how long that's been going on, and then the joists are rotted, and you got a next thing you know, there's a flood in the crawl space or something like that. I'm pretty sure this was a crawl space house. Which is a 50-50 in Alabama, really, kind of sometimes, but more slabs really than
if it's a newer build, it's going to be a slab. If it's built in the 80s or before, it's probably going to be a crawl space.
Right, in this particular area, in this market. But anyway, so I don't remember whether or not I bought that one, to be honest. This was a long term. I probably did, but I don't remember. And then I used that inspector again because again I for whatever reason, I was using a new inspector in this market, and maybe I was new to the market. I don't remember. Getting a groove with this guy, and he's speaking the same language, you know. And sure enough, I get another inspection. Now that I think about it, I think I didn't buy the first one, and I get another inspection, and guess what? Squishy subfloor. And I'm like, is this just the squishy subfloor guy? You know, is this the squishy subfloor inspector? Is he putting that on all of his reports?
Well, but Luke, on this, you got to remember back when this house was probably built in the 70s or the 80s, it said that the joist had to be so much on center, probably like 24 inches on center or something like that for your flooring. I think they've changed the building codes to reduce the movement. And that's what he's here. When he says squishy, he means movement in the subfloor. Okay. That's all he means. That doesn't mean squishy like he's about to put his foot through the roof. Okay. There's a difference in that, but squishy subfloor means it's got movement. And I think they've changed it to like 18 inches on center to reduce the movement. That's all it means.
You nailed it. You nailed it. You know what I mean? He's like, okay, it does this, and they all do that. It's not that big a deal in his brain. But I'm just seeing it on paper, squishy subfloor, and I'm thinking, well, crap, there was a flood at one point that they never addressed or something, you know? So, you know, it's all about learning and here's another one for you. I had another one where I was buying another long-term, and something came up on this inspection. This is a different inspector, and the floors were, you know, they were vinyl, and they were a little out of whack, right? Like some gaps in the seams or something like that. And I ended up pushing through on this purchase and got all the way to final walkthrough. It was the first time I ever went. And I'll be honest with you, I own another house on that same street, like 4 doors down. And I went over there with a long-term rental. Went to check on this other one. It was getting ready to go on for rent.
Right.
I was with my property manager. We were sitting in the driveway, and I thought, and just for whatever reason, it clicked in my brain. I go, you know what? I think I'm closing on another one on this street, like pretty soon. So I called my agent, and I said, am I closing on another one on such and such street? And she goes, yeah, we're closing on that today. And I'm like, oh crap. I didn't even remember. And so I was like, hey, can you get me in for a final walkthrough? I'm right here. And so I went over there, and this one was in bad shape, man. It was horrible. Like you remember this one? I ended up losing my earnest money over it, which was fine. It was worth it.
I can't talk about that, Luke, because
we're not talking about that. But so you know, that one was like, oh crap, you know, do your due diligence. You know, that one. So there's a whole other level there. But
the one thing I would suggest to anybody looking to buy before they buy is actually go visit the property.
Yes,
at least once. Go visit the property, whether you got to hop on a plane or not. If you're relying on some third party to do it for you, they're going to see things different, and it's not going to move over to your brain the way it should be. So, you know, every property I've ever bought, whether it's a triple net, a long term, or a short term, I've walked through the property, every single one.
I have not, and I would recommend my way if you have some experience. But that being said, you can still get burned, you know. So you're right. You should 100% always go for the inspection, but there are times that you can't, you know.
I mean, you know, if I can walk through it, I may not need an inspector. Is the way I look at it. So
That's true. And some states allow self-inspection.
well, I mean, when I walk through a property, I'm turning the water on. Um, I'm checking whether the AC works. I'm looking at the roof to see how much life it is. Like for example, I've currently got a long term under contract in my market, and the reason I pick long terms in my market is because I know where the school systems are, what's good, what's bad, so I know where to invest, and I'm comfortable with it. But it needs a new roof here in a few years. It needs new flooring upstairs. It needs to be repainted. It needs a new deck outside just because it's an old deck. I put my foot on it. I was like, I'm not walking on this deck. Now the pillars are good. The joists are good. I went underneath and looked at it. It's just new decking. Not a big deal. It just needs a lot of work. But I was able to put my eyes on it, and I looked at the plumbing underneath to make sure we didn't have leaks up underneath the sinks. I flushed all the toilets. That's what the inspector comes out and does. That's all he does. He's not actually getting into the subfloor and making sure of stuff. So a lot of inspectors don't do that. Now, when I do get an inspection, I'm getting that inspection to where I hope they say squishy subfloor. I hope they say all this other stuff, because then I'm asking for a reduction on the price.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, but I've already put my eyes on it.
Now, I do agree with you to a certain extent. I do agree that putting your eyes on it and walking through and turning on the water and all that stuff is probably more beneficial than the inspection itself. But I always get an inspection too, always, always, always. Especially if you got a system for something you're repeating in the same market, and you got a dude that you know how to read his inspections. You're buying a $200,000 house. You're buying an $800,000 house. Get the $300-$400 inspection.
Now the ones I haven't gotten inspections on have been $50,000 houses that are going to rent for $800. Okay,
right.
That's
when where can I find those? Everybody wants to find those. Don't give it away.
They don't exist right now.
They don't. Yeah, they don't.
Now the one I'm not doing an inspection on here in Birmingham that I have under contract is because it's after, like, the one right next door sold for twice what I'm buying it for, and it needs maybe $20,000 of work.
I think where people get in trouble is where they buy a $700,000 short term and they try to cut their teeth on it. I don't recommend that, especially doing it from a distance. And it's not really about the guys that are, there is the element of these contractors, these workers never really see the homeowners. So there's that element, but it's more about you not knowing what the hell you're doing. So I would highly recommend, if somebody's getting into real estate for the first time, wants to dig deeper, wants to maybe pursue this as a career, start local-ish. I mean, I've never really lived in an area. That's another thing. People that can afford real estate don't live in areas where real estate makes money. All right, for the most part. So I've never really, first of all, there's been many times in my life I couldn't afford real estate either, but I've never really lived in an area where you could get rental real estate to make money. So I've always had to go but 3 hours, I got that straight from Brandon Turner. 3 hours, within 3 hours of your house, you can find something. Go out and buy $150,000 that you're going to long-term rent and cut your teeth on that. Figure out how to do the countertops, who to call. There's going to be a lot of phone calls, a lot of pain in the rear end, and you gotta get some experience before you dive into this $800,000 thing.
Well, the first 2 years of doing it, I got inspections on every single one. It was when 2021 hit and you had to close quickly. I was like, well, I don't have time to waste, and they're not going to take a price reduction. So I had to change my tactic in 2021 for my long terms. It was, it was a tough market to even find some deals, but I ended up getting deals because I offered to close with cash. It was me closing, not a wholesaler. They weren't going to sell the contract, and I was getting it at purchase price. And I had a realtor that was, putting not a sob story, but putting this is the person that's going to own your house, not somebody's going to sell this contract. They are going to close. So I had a realtor that was really pushing up in my long-term market for me. So I got a few deals in 2021 that probably a lot of other people who were going to sell the contract or whatnot wouldn't have gotten. That really helped.
Absolutely.
But I've used my realtors here, and then down at the beach, I'm always getting an inspection because the salt water down at the beach, you want to make sure I want them up on the roof, looking at the roof. I want them inside looking at all the issues. Because I did a walkthrough, but at the same time, this is like you just said, it's a $1 million purchase. It's a whatever it is. It's not a $50,000, $75,000 home. We're talking about a lot more risk.
Absolutely. All right, Patrick, it's been awesome. Short-term rental management, rehab, episode 1. And any books you've read recently that were good for my purposes, anybody's purposes?
Well, the one I've read most recently, I don't have a lot of time to read anymore with a little 18-month-old and one on the way, but the one I've read most recently has been Avery's book. So,
okay, wonderful.
Probably I really enjoyed that one, and probably my other favorite one was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Well, I mean, how could it not be? As a matter of fact,
exactly.
I only have two. I only have 2 on my desk, and that's the other one. Okay, wonderful. Well, great to hear from you. We'll see you soon, and thanks a lot from Short-Term Rental Management. Have a great day.
See you, Luke.